Maybe one of the best ways to explore Dibble's eighth is through a case study of Miss Jacobs' class. Miss Jacobs is a second grade teacher who has been teaching for 15 years and is using MClass for the first time. She's excited because she knows she's going to receive quantitative data on how her students are learning the basic early literacy skills. She's also excited because as she administers the test, she can also receive qualitative data on how her students are reading in real time. There are two types of assessments Miss Jacobs will use. The first is benchmark assessments. These happen 3 set times throughout the year: beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year. All students in her class will take this assessment, and they will be assessed on all measures in their grade. This is great because it will help Miss Jacobs identify which students need progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is the other type of assessment Miss Jacobs will use. This occurs every 1 to 4 weeks, and it's based on student need. Basically, it occurs in between benchmarks. Any student can be progress monitored, but mainly it's those students who are below benchmark. What's great about progress monitoring is the teacher can select the measure she wishes to assess her student on, although some teachers may choose to assess students on all measures. Progress monitoring also allows the teacher to know if his or her instruction is being effective. Because Ms. Jacobs' students are in second grade, they will be assessed on nonsense word fluency, word reading fluency, oral reading fluency, and maze. They will also be assessed at each time of year and take these measure assessments at beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year. Ms. Jacobs will also save a lot of time while assessing her students. Because of changes to Dibble's 8th edition, such as gating and adaptability, and the fact that students only read one passage for ORF, she can save up to 200 minutes while assessing her class. Once Ms. Jacobs has completed assessments for her students, those measures outlined in orange, she will receive a composite score for each of her students. A composite score is basically how a student performed on each measure rolled into one, and it's the best estimate of a student's reading proficiency. MClass will also display a student's composite score for every benchmark assessment. Here, Ms. Jacobs can see that Karen received a 349 at the beginning of year, a 403 at the middle of year, and a 453 at the end of the year. She can also see how Karen performed on each measure for every benchmark assessment. Ms. Jacobs will also notice there are 3 things associated with benchmark categories: a status, a category name, and a support level. Students above benchmark are coded blue. Those at benchmark are coded green. Students below benchmark are coded yellow, and students well below benchmark are coded red. Notice that a support level also correlates with each color. Students in green and blue can generally benefit from core instruction, though students in blue may also be ready for instruction in more advanced skills. Students in yellow and red, however, likely need a different type of support: strategic or intensive. Strategic support generally occurs within the classroom. An intensive support will occur in the classroom as well, but Ms. Jacobs may also need to look for resources outside her classroom that are within the school to help students who need intensive support. The benchmark categories are determined by goals that are set for students at each time of year. This slide shows the benchmark goals for each measure, and they are based on longitudinal research examining how a score on a measure at a point in time predicts later reading outcomes. Students at benchmark are likely to be performing at grade level by the end of the year and are found in the 40th percentile or higher. Those below benchmark are likely to be scoring below grade level at the end of the year and are found in the 20th to 40th percentile. Students well below benchmark are likely to be scoring well below grade level at the end of the year and are found at the 20th percentile and lower. Let's see what these benchmark goals look like in a real-life classroom. Ms. Jacobs can open her class summary report. Notice it's divided into 2 portions. The portion on the left is more holistic and shows Ms. Jacobs how her class is doing as a whole. The portion on the right allows Ms. Jacobs to see individual students' scores. and their individual needs. Notice that about 1/3 of the class is at or above benchmark, while about the other 2/3 are well below or below benchmark. Ms. Jacobs can zoom in further and look at her students who are below benchmark. She sees their composite scores range from 241 to 283. She also notices that there are two distinct groups within this subgroup, one that needs support with letter sounds and one that needs support with decoding. Ms. Jacobs can zoom in even further and open a probe level report. On this report, she can see the letters a student read correctly, the words they read correctly, and the errors that they made. Feel free to pause your screen and see what the data reveals about Emma's phonics needs. Another feature Ms. Jacobs is excited to use is the instruction feature. Here, she can see what individual students' suggested activities are. In looking at Emma Rolling, we see there are 5 suggested activities: a short A word chain, a short I word chain, final letter sounds, hard and soft G and J, and short E word chain. Ms. Jacobs is also excited to use the group feature. While she was assessing her students, she noticed that some of them had similar needs and similar strengths. M-Class also noticed this and grouped students together. Look at this group. This group needs help reading words with more complex patterns. This page will also tell Ms. Jacobs what these students can do and what they need to work on. Ms. Jacobs will also be able to look at a progress monitoring report. Here, she can see how students are performing between benchmarks. Notice that 3 students still need support with letter sounds, while one student, Julia Robinson, is making progress with letter sounds.